How's it going, guys? This is Iron Fist LMS, once again coming to you from the LMS live stream over at Twitch TV. Now, what I have for you guys today is the third episode of my PlanetSide 2 Flight School series. Now, in this episode, we're basically going to be covering how best to turn the tables on an enemy that's attacking you from behind. So that's how to turn around on him properly while taking the least amount of damage possible, and how to beat him in a straight-up dogfight once you have turned around. Now, judging by the amount of comments and emails I've been getting on this subject, you guys have been having a fair amount of trouble with this, and I wanted to make this video just to prove to you guys you do not need to run away from every enemy that engages you from behind. You can turn around and fight him, and most of the time you're going to take them off guard. Now, also just to let you guys know, I have been experimenting with the virtual keyboard software, which you can see at the bottom of the screen, and if you guys find this useful, then do let me know in the comments and I'll keep it in my future videos. Now, the first and most important point if you're serious about dogfighting in PlanetSide 2 is use your headphones. You'd be shocked at the amount of players that either don't use sound or have music blaring in the background while they're trying to play. Now, if you really want to win in dogfighting situations, you have to use your sound, because all three aircraft have a unique sound signature, and you can use it to tell exactly where your enemy is and whether they're sneaking up behind you just by listening out for them, even if they're using vehicle stealth to keep off your radar. So make sure you've got your in-game sound turned up and you've got a decent set of headphones on if you really want to accomplish something. Now, I'm actually going to turn the music down here and stop commentating for a sec so you guys can sort of pick up and watch how I use sound in-game. As you can see, using sound is a great tool of keeping track of the enemy, or at least giving yourself a rough idea of where the enemy is, even when they're not appearing on screen or radar. So make sure you've got your headphones turned up and you listen out for those engine noises. Now, once you've used sound to identify the fact that there is an enemy behind you, you need to turn around on him. And you need to do so quickly and while taking the least amount of damage as possible, so that you have maximum health going into the straight up head-to-head dogfight. Now, if I get caught out in the open or perhaps up high by the flight ceiling and I don't have any kind of terrain to cover my turn, which by the way is best practice, if at all possible in game, if you get attacked from behind, try and find some cover or terrain to hide behind to actually mask your turn so that you come out from that terrain facing the enemy. Now, if that is not possible and I do get caught out in the open, then what I'll usually use is my barrel roll turn. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stick a link on the video right now to direct you guys to my tutorial on the barrel roll turn, or alternatively you can use the virtual keyboard which I have up on the screen to at least give yourself a rough idea of how to do it. But I highly recommend checking out my barrel roll turn video to at least learn the basics on how to do it. Now, the idea behind the barrel roll turn is to basically turn around as fast as possible while making it as difficult as possible for the enemy to hit you. As you can see in these clips, the enemy is hitting me as I'm flying in a straight line forwards, but as soon as I start the barrel roll turn and go into my reverse, the damage suddenly stops coming because it becomes very, very hard to hit you. Because of the fact that the barrel roll turn throws you into a reverse maneuver that is not in just one direction. It actually throws you into three directions at once. You're going backwards and you're elevating and going to the side all at the same time. So it creates a very difficult thing to hit. Now, even the best pilots on my server have trouble hitting people as they're doing this kind of reverse turn. So I highly recommend it if you do get caught out in the open, but do try to use cover if at all possible. Now, the next thing that I'm going to cover is actually using the terrain to turn around on enemies and dodge air-to-air missiles as well. This method of using terrain to actually cover or hide your turn, as well as dodge air-to-air missiles as well, is what you should be doing if at all possible. If there is cover available to you, make sure you use it, as it has two main advantages to doing something like the barrel roll turn in the open. Now the first advantage is of course that you're not going to take any damage while you're turning, and you're nowhere near as vulnerable, because the whole slowing down of the aircraft and the actual maneuver is covered by that terrain, so you're not going to be taking any damage while you're doing it. Again, meaning that you have the maximum amount of health possible going into the dogfight after you completed the maneuver. Now secondly, of course, you can actually totally confuse the enemy that's chasing you, because most likely he's going to be in first person because he's trying to shoot you. Now you can come out on the other side of the terrain, or perhaps just sort of juke back and come back out the way that you came in. Now this, in combination with the vehicle stealth upgrade, is going to make you very, very difficult to track, because you go out of line of sight for a minute and then you have the upper hand when coming out of the terrain, because you're going to have the advantage of knowing where he is, and he's going to be looking around frantically trying to find you. Now you can even use things like biolab domes, as I'm doing in this clip here, to actually hide your maneuver. Now this isn't going to work of course if the enemy is above you, but if he's on the same level as you, you can actually use the dome or even the landing pad to completely hide your turn and come out having the upper hand on him. Now one main thing to remember when you're doing this of course is you need to be going as fast as possible behind that terrain, and then you're going to have to slow down very, very quickly. Now this does take quite a lot of practice, due to the fact that I'm sure I've even done it a lot of times, that you're going to end up slamming into that terrain. So as I'm doing in these clips, you want to be going into that cover in third person and remain in third person until you finish the maneuver and you're actually turning around to face the enemy. Now the key to doing this properly is actually managing, of course, going from full speed running away from the enemy to slowing right down and doing the maneuver. And as I say, it does take quite a lot of practice to get the timing right, but once you get it, it is going to pay off big time. Now, I am still working on a method to reliably dodge air-to-air missiles without using cover, due to the fact that SOE keep changing the properties of the missiles, and every time they change how they handle or how they work, I have to then do 100 different tests to see if my method still works. So don't worry, for those of you that have been asking for a way to dodge air-to-air missiles without cover or flares, then it's still in the works, but I need to do a little bit more investigation and a little bit more testing. But right now there is quite a reliable way of dodging missiles, and that is using any terrain that you have around you. I mean, even the smallest sort of mountain or cliff in the ground can be used to dodge the missiles, as they just follow a straight line. They cannot go around terrain. Now do remember that once you have completed your turn and you are facing the enemy, you still need to win your head-to-head dogfight. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, as there's going to be more stuff in a future video, but just to give you guys some advice, you're actually going to be coming in at an advantage once you have turned around, due to the fact that he's probably wasted his entire clip of ammo trying to hit you as you are turning around. So you're now facing him with a full clip of ammo, and he's more than likely going to be reloading at that point in time. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is actually making sure by holding spacebar and ascending that I have the height advantage over him. So he now has to come in at an angle straight at me, which means that I could be hitting him as he's coming up at me, and making me a very difficult target to hit, while it's not too hard to hit an enemy that's coming straight up at you, as you can see in these videos. Now this clip which I threw in at the end here is actually a bit of fun. It was recorded while I was doing some training with a wingman, and what happened is I actually landed to repair, and a completely random Mozzie came up and tried to kill me while I was repping. I took off and did the reverse maneuver and ended up owning the guy, and the little bastard decided to bail out and suicide. So that kind of frustrated me, but it kind of made me laugh at the same time, because the guy was that bad of a pilot. So that's me done for today's episode of the PlanetSide 2 Flight School. Now do remember, if you found this video useful, please subscribe to my channel, as it helps me out a bunch. And don't forget that I also like to receive any sort of comments, feedback or suggestions about this video in order to help me improve my content in the future. So until next time guys, this is Iron Fist signing out. Take it easy and have a good one.